What's up, everybody? In this video, we are going to talk about Albion Online. This is a game that's been out for a couple of years, but just recently went free to play. And I just started playing it over the last few weeks, having stumbled across it on Steam, and that coincided with when it went free to play. And this is a game that I have somewhat followed or been interested in since alpha and beta, but never ended up playing it. And I'm really glad I started playing it right now. And I just want to give you guys some of my first impressions and tell you why you might want to give this game a shot if it's something that would fit your playstyle. It may not be for everybody, but if this is a kind of game that you like, a style of game that's up your alley, then it's a really good game for that. Again, it is niche, but it's super fun. So what is Albion Online? Albion Online is a sandbox MMO, and a sandbox MMO is essentially a game that has no realms or servers. Everybody is on one server, and everything that you do in the game affects the game in some way. The game is very much built by the players. Not in the sense of a city being entirely built by players or anything like that, but the game is highly influenced by crafters and gatherers and guilds and holding different territories out in the world, and holding plots of land within a city to create crafting stations and then taxing people to use those and running items between cities and all this different stuff. It's really very interesting, especially coming from a game like World of Warcraft or Star Wars: The Old Republic, which is what I've played the most of in terms of MMOs, which are theme park MMOs. Essentially, you log into the game, you start at level 1, you hit max level, and then you're given a plethora of things that you can go do, none of which necessarily tie together, or if they do, it's somewhat vague. In this, everything feels like it ties together. Absolutely everything feels like it ties together in some way. And what that results in is you logging in with a goal or an idea of what you want to do with your playtime, and you do that, and it feels rewarding. Even if it's just go mining ore for 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever you do, it feels rewarding because you're still progressing your character, or you're making money, which allows you to buy better gear to progress your character further, or go engage in PvP or PvE or whatever. So as I just said, this game doesn't have traditional levels. You don't start at level 1 and then get to 100 or 60 or whatever. You make a character. There aren't any different classes or race options. There's very limited customization, which is a negative, but that doesn't bother me too much. I know some people, the customization of their character is super important to them, and there isn't very much of that in this game, but that doesn't bother me too much. But you create your character, you do the little tutorial island. They have a dedicated tutorial area to kind of introduce you to the systems and the ways of the game. And then it throws you out into the world, and that's basically it. You're given a couple of quests in the tutorial, a couple of quests after the tutorial, and then that's pretty much it. There is no questing. At that point, you choose your own adventure. You decide how you want to play. If you want to play an archer, then you would get a bow, and that bow would give you all of your abilities. So what that means is all of your abilities come from your weapon and gear, and how you play is entirely dictated by the items that you equip. And instead of leveling up your character, you level up your proficiency using those items and your mastery and your specialization of those items. There is something called the Destiny board in this game, and the Destiny board reminds me a lot of Path of Exile's talent tree in a way, but essentially what it does is you start in the center area, and you then branch off into different aspects of the game, and the more you do those aspects, the more you progress in those aspects. So on the left you have your combat, and you can go up into leather wearing, cloth wearer, stabs, bows, crossbows, swords, maces, all this different stuff. And you can mix and match. You're not limited by anything. Equipping a sword doesn't mean you have to wear plate. You could be an entirely cloth-wearing giant mace user if you so chose to, because your entire character's playstyle is based off of your gear, which is very, very cool because you can really make your own playstyle. And of course, there are the meta picks, the things that might be better for certain situations, but ultimately you get to decide how you want to play the game and how your character is going to function and play, which is very, very, very cool. And you can switch it at any time as well. You are penalized for switching just a little bit, but it's not dramatic. Or you can just re-level a different tree if you want to start doing something else. Additionally, the same goes for crafting. You can craft your gear, or you can just buy your gear from the auction house. Everything is tradable. Absolutely everything is tradable, except for like a select 2-3 things that I've found that aren't tradable. But usually those are like rewards, like for the daily bonuses or the monthly bonus rewards or something like that. But typically anything you find out in the world is going to be tradable in some way, which means it's also sellable. So you can really stumble on some awesome treasure and get very, very, very rich and very lucky, which is a cool feeling. But so you can go the crafter route, you can go the gatherer route as well. You can be a farmer, you could raise mounts, you could raise cattle, you could turn that into food, you could be an alchemist, and you could make your money that way, make your living that way, and then just buy your gear if you don't want to craft it. Or maybe you want to make your money by crafting, or maybe you want to be self-sufficient. The choice is entirely up to you how you play this game, which is a really awesome feeling, like I said, especially from coming from games like World of Warcraft and stuff, where it's very linear, and the game is meant to be played a certain way. So additionally, Albion Online is a full loot PvP game. That kind of game might not be for everybody, but it's definitely one of the reasons that I like the game. What that means is there are certain areas on the world map that are hostile, and players can kill you in them for free. You have blue zones, which are safe zones. You have yellow zones, which are semi-PvP. What that means is a player has to flag themselves as being hostile, at which point they can attack you even if you are not flagged, and anybody who is not flagged can also attack them. So it's very dangerous for them to do that, but if they do that, they can attack you. In a yellow zone, if you die, you will be knocked down for 3 minutes, and you won't lose any of your gear, but you will lose 30% of the materials that you're carrying in yourself, in your bag, or on your mount. So there is some risk involved, but overall it's pretty minuscule. After blue and yellow zones, you then hit red zones, and red zones are full loot death. They are, again, a flagged situation, so a player has to flag themselves as hostile. However, the difference between them and a yellow zone is that if you die, you do lose everything. It is full loot death. After that, there are black zones, which are up here in the Outlands. And black zones are just full PvP all of the time. And if you go out there, you have to be very aware that you have a very, very high likelihood of just losing all of your gear or anything that you're carrying on your person. So why would this be cool? Well, this creates a whole lot of fun PvP situations. You have to run away from gankers. You have to be very careful when you're gathering materials, because at some point in your gathering career, you're going to end up having to play in the black zones, as you will be gathering materials that are no longer in the safe zones. Furthermore, this creates very large world PvP situations. ZVZ, or Zerg vs. Zerg, as it's known in Albion, is just mass world PvP, and this happens quite frequently and can be a very, very fun experience. There's also guild versus guild conflicts and holding territories, and so if you die in those, it's full loot. So that kind of ties into the economy and the crafting. Gear is always in flux, and gear is always cycling through because people will die with it and need to re-gear themselves. There's also, you can go out into the world solo. It's just very, very enjoyable if you like that style of game. It's not for everybody, but it is very fun. What this also means is that the PvE in this game is just a little bit different as well from a traditional theme park MMO, in the sense that the PvE in the world is also open to other players. So if you go out into the world and go into a dungeon, another group of people can enter that dungeon as well and kill you in it, and take your stuff, or take over the dungeon, or you might have to fight for control of the dungeon. These things happen. They're not instanced, right? So the PvE in the game is, for the most part, not instanced, and you can run into other players. You might enter a dungeon that's already half cleared and there are people in there. So this adds another dynamic to it because it makes the world just feel very alive. It has this breath in it because you see people all the time, and you have to decide if you want to confront them, or if you want to, you might want to just leave, or maybe you want to invite them to your party and clear the dungeon together, or whatever it may be. There are some instanced PvP and PvE in here. There are solo and 5v5 arena queues, and then there are things called expeditions, which are essentially dungeons, instanced dungeons or instanced PvE, which are a set 5-player or solo experience. And there is also Diablo-style rifts or World of Warcraft-style Mythic Plus expeditions in the game, where you get a map and you can push this map up and up and up for better rewards. And this is instanced. You will not lose your loot if you die in there. There is a little bit of that, but typically speaking, most of the content pushes you out into the world and gets you out and about, and conflict arises. So that being said, you kind of have to be okay with that style of gameplay. One of my favorite things about this game is the ability to play with your friends in such a way that is not often found in a lot of MMOs. For example, in World of Warcraft, you have to be within the same level, give or take a few, as your friends in order to play with them. A level 100 player isn't really going to be able to play with a level 10 player. So it kind of forces you to get through the grind before you get to actually play the game, quote, or play with your friends. And that's not really how this game works. There aren't situations where you can't play with somebody who's new. They do have to get a little bit further ahead, just a little bit into the game, to unlock enough gear so that they can actually be effective with you. But you're not locked to being able to play without them. And I really, really like that. As I said, all the PvE is out in the world, and you just walk into the dungeon. So you can technically take as little or as many people as you want into that dungeon of whatever tier of gear they have, or whatever level their equipment is. You can technically do that. You're not stopped, which is great. The same for PvP. If you want to go out and experience world PvP, you can do that with any number of players that you want to. There are certain things that are specific numbers of players, but overall you can typically find something to do with your friends, and that's a big bonus for me, because not all of my friends or myself can get on every day or always play at the same time. So we have varied groups of sizes of people playing at one time, and we usually can find something to do together, and that's super enjoyable. Furthermore, the social aspect of this game is very important to the game overall. Guilds are a very, very important facet of the game, especially with holding territories throughout the world, and guilds fighting over territories of one another so that they control that territory and then can use that to, safely gather resources, etc., etc. In that same vein, there is a season in this game, so there are seasons of rankings for guilds, holding the most territories or conquering the most. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure exactly how that system works. I haven't gotten that into that just yet. I have joined a guild, but haven't done any of the territory claiming just yet. It sounds very enjoyable, and I know it's a very, very large part of the, quote, end game in this game. And I put quotes on that because it's a very different style of end game than your traditional MMO. But the social part of this game is very strong. You can definitely play the game solo, but you're going to have a lot more options and more things to do, and probably have an easier time of it if you play with a guild, or at least with a group of friends. I get on solo, but I do find that I have a lot more fun when my friends get on, or when I'm doing something with my guild or something like that. But you can play it solo, that's for sure. That being said, I haven't found many cons to this game so far. Ultimately, I've been looking for them too, because I like to evaluate a game, and I wait for something to kind of turn me off. And so far, nothing about this game has turned me off, ultimately. I find it very, very, very engaging, and I was hooked pretty much immediately on the game. And I just kind of get that sense of I want to get better, and I want to learn how to use my equipment the most effectively, use my skill set most effectively. I kind of have that urge to get better and progress my character, and I just want to go for it. I just want to go further and further, which is awesome. A lot of MMOs kind of lose that luster, or when you've played a lot of MMOs and you feel like you're just playing the same MMO over and over again, it's sometimes hard to find that in a new game. So that's very, very cool. My closing thoughts on this game would be, if you haven't tried Albion Online, I would definitely urge you to give it a shot. Definitely worth it. It is free. That being said, they do have, a premium membership, which you can purchase with in-game currency if you wish to, or just buy it. It's not required to play. Nothing's really locked behind it other than I think your island is, but you can get it with in-game currency. So it is a free game. I would definitely urge you to give it a shot if it sounds like it's something for you. I have been having a blast, as I've said, and I'm going to keep playing. So I hope this has been helpful for any of you guys who are wondering about this game or thinking, should I give this a try? Should I not? Is it for me? This is just kind of a brief overview of it. And to recap, like I said, my first impressions of the game overall. So far, I think it's really good. I'm having a blast, and let me know what you guys think of the game if you've played it, or if you're going to play it, let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, be sure to click the like button and subscribe if you want to see some more content. But other than that, I will see you all later.